G'day, I'm Andrew Marshall with the Northern Australia Climate Program at the University of Southern Queensland, and this is a short summary of the Bureau of Meteorology's climate outlook for the northern half of Western Australia for the weeks and months ahead, issued on the 28th of August 2025. We'll take a look at the rainfall outlooks to begin with, starting with these outlook scenarios here, and these are the rainfall totals that have a 75% chance of occurring for your region. So looking ahead to the 3 months from September to November, we're seeing a 75% chance of up to about 10 millimetres of rain for parts of the southern Gascoyne and southern Kimberley regions, and up to about 50 millimetres or so for much of the northern Kimberley. And looking further ahead to the 3 months, from October to December, we're seeing these forecast rainfall totals increase as we move into the wet season for Northern Australia, and we'll look closer at that next month. Now, don't forget to use this magnifying glass to drill deeper into the forecast, specifying your location of interest to break the forecast down into the chance of different rainfall amounts occurring. And this gives you an idea of how conditions are likely to be compared to the historical median. As always, your local climate mate will be happy to go through this with you in more detail. Now, taking a quick look at the Bureau's outlook for the northern rainfall onset issued on the 28th of August, and this is the last issue of the northern rainfall onset forecast for the coming wet season. The parts of Western Australia away from the northern Kimberley have about a 60 to 70% chance of a later than usual onset. Now let's look at the temperatures, and the differences from average for maximum temperature here show cooler conditions for much of Western Australia, except in eastern parts of the Kimberley for the 2 weeks from the 4th to the 17th of September. And here the average is calculated over the 1981 to 2018 period for this time of year. And for minimum temperature, we're expecting cooler than average conditions right across the state for that 2-week period. Looking at the chance of extremes map for the 3 months from September to November, we're seeing an elevated chance of unusually warm days across the Kimberley and unusually warm nights across the northern half of the state. And by unusually warm, we mean the highest 20% of historical temperature records for this time of year based on that 1981 to 2018 period. Now, these long-range forecasts for rainfall and temperature do provide the best local guidance for climate, so that is our focus here. These forecasts do consider all ocean and atmosphere conditions that affect seasonal weather and climate. But if you are interested in some of these climate indicators that can influence the forecast, we will have a quick look at these now. The El Nino Southern Oscillation remains neutral. The Bureau's model suggests that we are likely to remain in this neutral range, so neither El Nino nor La Nina until at least January, and this is consistent with most surveyed international models, although some indicate the potential for borderline La Nina levels. The Indian Ocean Dipole, or the IOD, has been neutral. However, it is likely that we are in the early stages of a negative IOD phase with further development likely, and the Bureau's model predicts a negative IOD during spring with a return to neutral in early summer, as is typical. This is consistent with all surveyed international models. Now, strong pulse of the Madden-Julian Oscillation, or the MJO, has been over the Indian Ocean in the last few weeks and is now weakening over the Maritime Continent region. And the Southern Annular Mode, or the SAM, has recently been strongly positive, but it's forecast to remain neutral for the next few weeks. The sea surface temperature outlook is also likely to be influencing the forecast for Australia, of course, and this shows warmer than average waters around northern, eastern and southeastern Australian regions, persisting for the September to November period. And in fact, sea surface temperatures in the Australian region have been the warmest, or the second warmest on record for each month since July last year. Now turning to the pasture growth outlook from long paddock for the 3 months from August to October. Not much happening for northern regions at this time of year, but some of the southern regions are expecting to see varying amounts of pasture growth in response to the expected rainfall in the coming months. And finally, looking at the Cattle Comfort Index prototype forecasts at nacp.org.au, index values between 30 and 35 degrees represent moderate stress to cattle, values between 35 and 40 degrees represent severe stress, and values above 40 degrees are considered extreme. And we are expecting varying heat stress conditions over Northern Australia, with some moderate to severe conditions to be aware of in the days ahead. As always, for more information and updates, visit the Bureau's climate pages at bom.gov.au. nap.org.au/climate. If you have any questions about recent conditions or the use of weather and climate forecasts, please reach out to your local climate mate. You can read more about the Northern Australia Climate Program at nap.org.au. See you next time.